So why would somebody pay $75 to $100 for a little flashlight? Well, it's probably for the same reason that someone would go out and buy a DeWalt or Milwaukee power tool versus buying one from Harbor Freight. Because anyone who works in the field, such as carpentry or electricians or a technician like myself, they know the difference between a good tool and a lower quality tool. So I'm not trying to knock Harbor Freight. I have bought tools from Harbor Freight before and they've served their purpose. I've had good and bad experiences with them. But as a technician myself, I know the difference between something that's going to work and it's going to last. So that's pretty much the same kind of concept if you're getting a flashlight and you're using it as a tool. And that's kind of what this video is about in a sense. There's three different flashlights we're going to be comparing today. One's not really a flashlight per se, it's more like a searchlight. It's kind of big, I'll show it to you in a second here. But before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about the reason why I'm making this video, kind of the basis of it. I've had a Fenix PD35 for about 6 years now. This is a 2013 model, and I've had no complaints about it whatsoever. It's been a really good light. It's lasted. It's been through a lot. I don't have it at this moment to show you because I currently don't have it at my house right now, but you can look it up online. You know exactly what it is, and if you're looking at this video, you know what we're talking about here. If you're a person looking for a flashlight or trying to compare them, so you already know that. But the light's been beat up. It's got nicks and scratches all over it. It's been dropped I don't know how many times. I dropped it off my ladder about 20 feet up in the air onto the grass. I don't know, a handful of times. I've dropped it onto the concrete from at least 12 feet. It's been ran over by a car. Literally been ran over by a car. It's been through the races. And it's lasted this long, and it's pretty amazing because I can use that light on its low setting, which is I think the 45 lumen setting. It's the next one up from the eco mode. And I use that pretty much consistently, and I only have to charge the battery once every 9 months. Back in the day, that was pretty much unheard of. It was practically impossible with older style flashlights that didn't have LED technology and lithium batteries and stuff like that. So that's kind of the basis of where this video is getting started is you go out and you buy a flashlight. If you're a person who needs to use it as a tool like myself, you're going to want to buy something that's reliable, doesn't break easily, you don't have to constantly be charging and replacing the batteries. There's just a whole slew of reasons. And I myself have 3 different tools I carry on me at all times. It's always on my waist because I am using them constantly. And one of those tools is my flashlight. And I would say I use that the most out of the other 2 tools that are on my belt. I carry probably about 50 to 70 tools with me throughout the day. And all of those tools are important. I use them every day. But the thing that I use the most throughout the day is my flashlight. And if you're not the kind of person who needs a flashlight for daily use, sure, you can go to Harbor Freight, you can go to Walmart, you can get the cheapest flashlight out there, and it's probably going to work for you. But for a person who needs a flashlight as a tool, that's kind of what this is about. So I love my flashlight, and since it is the most used tool, I need to be able to rely on it, and it needs to be easy to use, all kinds of stuff. So before we go off on some kind of rant about that, I'm going to show you what flashlights we're comparing here today, and that's kind of where I was leading to with the PD35. I have got the new PD36R. It literally just came out, I think, this month, and I didn't even know it, but I needed to I want to retire my old PD35 simply because they have something better now, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to show it to you here. Whoops, dropped my other flashlight. It's a Thrunite, little hint there. So this is the PD36R. I don't think it's going to, there it goes, the focus. So you can see here, I'm not going to get into specs on any one of these lights. If you're a person looking for a flashlight, you already know what you're looking for, and you pretty much should already know this. But you can look all this stuff up online. I don't want to make this video too long. So the PD36R here. So basically, the lumen settings on this are pretty comparable to the PD35. The only difference is this goes up to its turbo setting at 1600 lumens, to where the old PD35 is about 850, I believe. So there is a noticeable difference in light output on a turbo setting. All the other modes are pretty comparable to that of the PD35. The beam spread, the spill, and everything is pretty much all the same, and that's just because the head is pretty much identical. The LED is maybe an upgraded version, but it's basically the same. If you want to penny pinch on stuff like that, that's up to you, but for me, there's basically no difference except for the amount of light that can come out of this and how long it lasts. That's the other thing. So on its high setting, which I believe is 800, I think it's 800 lumens, and this will last for up to almost 6 hours running that. And then on its lower settings, it's basically like double the time, or almost double the amount of time it can last on the modes versus the PD35. So I wanted to get the new version. I like that it has a little light on here that lets you know when it's running out of battery or when it's fully charged. And other than that, the only difference is just the different style of clip. It has basically a dual function clip here. You can face it up or face it down. So that's why I got this light. I just wanted to replace my other one. But I wanted to test it out compared to the other light here I have. Let me grab it. It's actually on the floor right now. Okay, so this is the Thrunite Catapult V6. And I think this came out like a year ago, maybe a little more than that. But this is basically a mini spotlight, a searchlight, very tight, narrow focus beam. And the reason why I got this is because it wasn't really that expensive. And I wanted to get a light that was comparable to this old light I want to show you here. This is what I've been getting to. It is a Vector power on board searchlight. This huge thing. It has a big lead acid battery and it's very heavy. It's huge and bulky. This is not practical to use whatsoever, unless you are in search and rescue, I guess. But even people in search and rescue these days aren't carrying around a big giant thing like this. They're using an LED flashlight. I got this a really long time ago, pretty much just as a novelty, I guess. I think it was only 40 bucks at the time. But this is an HID, high intensity discharge spotlight. And it is very, very bright, at least for a flashlight of this size, I guess. It's very bright, of its time anyways. So what we're going to be doing is comparing mainly the Catapult V6 and this light to see if this light here can get around the similar reach or brightness compared to this light here. And then we're also, of course, going to compare it to this little tiny PD36R. Just to kind of get an idea of where we're at. This HID light is actually a 35 watt HID. I'll post like a link in the description if you want to look up this light at all, because these are still out there, but they're a little bit more harder to find than those other lights. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go outside and we're going to just take a look at some beam shots. My backyard right now, I don't know the exact distance, but I think it's about 200 feet from the back of my patio to the woods. Any one of these lights is easily going to reach back there and light it up, but this is just kind of a base test, and we'll probably go to another location as well. That's a little bit further and just kind of compare the beam shots there. But realistically, most people, unless they're in some kind of search and rescue or military or something like that, they don't really need a light that's going to go that far, because you have to realize that people can only really see so far, so you don't need a light that's going to go out to 1,000 yards, because at that distance, unless you're using some kind of a scope, you really can't tell what's going on. So at that point, it's basically just to show off and to be amazing. But I think about 200 feet, 300 feet, maybe 500 feet is probably the most realistic scenario where you're going to use a light. And also, any one of these lights, most people aren't going to be using them on the high setting, or I should say the turbo setting, for a long, long period of time. Most of the time it's going to be, the average person is probably just going to be turning on turbo for a short time, and then you're going to turn it back down to its other settings, which is going to be plenty for what you're using it for. So People get hung up on the turbo setting a lot, or the highest output setting a flashlight can possibly give you, but realistically, people aren't really going to be using it in that setting for most of the time. Like I said, my old PD35, the setting I use at most for closer proximity things is just its low setting at 45 lumens, and it works perfectly fine, even outside at night. But if I want to see something farther away, I would use something like this spotlight here. If I really wanted to look at maybe a person or an animal somewhere that's off in the distance at night for whatever reason. So enough talk, let's go get to the beam shots. Okay, so we are now on my back patio, and to the back tree line from here is about exactly 200 feet. I measured it. Now before we get started, just so you know, for those who don't know, it is practically impossible for a camera to actually pick up exactly how the human eye sees things, even if you do manual settings. But as of right now, I have it adjusted to approximately how bright you would see this to your eyes if you were here. But on the higher or lower modes, it's not going to pick it up quite the same. But this is it's probably the best approximation. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the PD36R. Okay, this is the PD36R. You can see this is the low setting. This is the, I think it's 35 lumen. I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into the lumens here. I'm just going to talk about equal, low, and high. We'll talk about it that way. So, you can't really see too much. Let's go to the next mode. This is considered the low setting. And you can kind of see my shed way back there. That's about 190 feet. Then we go to the medium setting. And you can kind of see the tree up behind the shed there. And then the other trees back there, that is 200 feet. And here is the high setting. And yes, this is what it looks like in person. I can see that much. It has a really nice spill on it and a nice beam on it. It's a good balance of both, especially for such a small flashlight. And then here is the turbo setting. Not a huge difference, but I mean that's pretty far away. That's 200 feet way back there, and I can see clear as day if there's anything back there at all. And I mean, you can even kind of see the beam on this light as well. I mean, in person, that's what it looks like. I mean, that's just lighting up everything. Alright, so now we're going to get into the Catapult V6 by Thrunite. That's the low setting. And you can see, you can't really see a whole lot. You can almost just barely see back there to the trees. You can barely see the shed. It's a low setting. And this is the medium setting. Quite honestly, I mean, the shed looks maybe a little bit brighter than the PD36R, but not by a whole lot, really. At least not in this setting. And then we'll get into the high setting. There is the high setting. And then you can kind of start seeing a beam at this point. You can see back there at the tree line at 200 feet. And then we'll go to the turbo setting. That's the turbo setting. It's not a huge jump from high, but it's a little bit. Now at this distance here, actually, I think the PD36R is more of a practical light because this is probably lighting up just about the same as the turbo setting on the PD36R. The only difference here is you're just getting a little bit hotter of a spot in the middle, but other than that, I think the PD36R wins, so we're going to turn them both on here. Okay, so here you have obviously the Catapult V6 on the left, PD36R on the right, and you can kind of see that if I pull one away, switch them up, PD36R, Not really seeing a whole lot of huge benefit from the Catapult V6 in this setting. I mean, I can see almost as much with just the PD36R at this range. So now let's compare the HID light. Okay, so here is the HID light, and there's no settings, it's just on and off pretty much. And honestly, I can see just as much with the Catapult V6 compared to this light at this range. So let's go ahead and turn on the Catapult V6 on turbo and compare them. So there they are side by side, the Catapult V6 and the HID light on the left. I would say the HID light has just a tiny bit hotter of a spot, but as far as spill goes, the floody part of the light, they're both about the same. And I would say that the brightness of the Catapult V6 is just slightly behind, but very comparable, which is pretty amazing for a light that's so small. So let's compare the PD36R to the HID light. Okay, so now we're looking at the PD36R on the right and the HID light on the left. And you can see that although you can see more in the center of the beam with the HID light, the PD36R on turbo is keeping up with it. It's way more practical at this distance here. And over on the side of the screen there, the left side, that's probably about 250 feet from here. So you definitely get more throw with the HID light, but as far as what it's able to light up, it's this little tiny PD36R is definitely way more practical to carry with you if you're really looking to go 200 to 300 feet with it, compared to this heavy, giant HID light. So now let's go to another location that's a little bit further out. Okay, so now I'm at some soccer fields here, and basically there's 3 fields side by side, and the tree line way out there that I'm going to be shining the lights at is actually exactly 800 feet from here. Now, this is about as far as I would really want to do any kind of test with flashlights, simply because for the average person, 800 feet is kind of going beyond what you would need a flashlight to do. Anything beyond that's pretty much just I don't know, talking rights, bragging rights, whatever you want to call it. So let me get the flashlights out here. I'm just do this real quick, all in turbo settings, or I should say the highest settings, and we'll compare them. I'm just letting my HID light warm up, to be fair. It takes about 10 seconds to 20 seconds for it to get to full brightness. And I'm just not going to do this for very long, just because I'm not really supposed to be at this location, I don't think. And I don't want to get kicked out. And also these lights attract a lot of bugs. Alright, so here's the PD36R. And you can't really see all the way out to the tree line. I mean, you can kind of make it out, but it's not really lighting it up enough to where you can really see it with the human eye. And then here is the Catapult V6, and you can see it is actually punching out there, and you can see to the tree line. So if you really, really needed to see something that far away, this will definitely do it for you. But I mean, I can't even really make out what's going on at that distance anyways, so I don't really see why you'd need a flashlight to punch out that far, unless you're looking for something large. And then here is the HID light on the left. That's punching all the way out to that tree line pretty well. There's the Catapult V6 on the right. The Catapult V6 has a slightly larger beam, but it's pretty much doing the trick. I mean, all in all, the best light that you're going to probably find is, rather than carrying out something large, is definitely going to be the Catapult V6 if you really want to punch out the distance. But for flood, for a small carry light, the PD36R is definitely going to compare to any other light it's going to compete pretty well. Beyond that, if you need something even brighter, obviously you're going to need maybe a slightly larger light. I'd probably recommend the Thrunite TC20, although I think probably for more practical use, the P36R is definitely going to cut it for almost all cases. Unless you just need a light to last longer on a battery, then obviously you're going to have to carry around a larger battery with a slightly larger flashlight. So, sorry about this video being so long. Some people like to be a little bit thorough when it comes to comparing flashlights, and some people kind of like a better explanation to help them understand what they actually want, or I should say what they actually need compared to what they actually want. So that just kind of helps people make a decision on what they actually want to purchase. Trust me, I've been through it before. I keep thinking like, hey, really bright, super powerful flashlight's awesome, but realistically, you don't really need something like that. Not unless you're in some kind of like search and rescue where you're actually looking for people like miles out. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.